Our next speaker is Alison Novak. Alison is principal at the Hudson companies, and she will be introducing our next panel of the day entitled What a Business Owes Its Neighbors. So a really important community-focused panel. I'm really pleased to welcome Alison Novak.
Hi, I'm Alison, and I'm a housing developer. Often I say that in social situations, and immediately I feel the judgment coming down. It's almost as if I've said I live at Trump Soho or Hoboken. So to diffuse the situation, sometimes I say, don't worry, my company also builds affordable housing, as if the subtext is like, I can't be all bad. What I really want to say in response to this silent critique is, how do you think we should solve the housing crisis? What's your take on the scenario where we have the resources to either build fewer affordable units in Chelsea or more in Brownsville? If you have the choice between a 15-story building with affordable units or an 8-story building without, which do you choose? How? Or if I'm feeling more provocative, I might say, well, fortunately, no developers had a hand in building your own abode. Knowing full well, as all of us do, that New York City's housing infrastructure didn't spring out of the ground fully formed, wasn't created by old-fashioned barn-raising parties, or even by the legion-strong members of the Park Slope Food Co-op. Not long ago, it was a while ago, I was a graduate student studying at MIT's Department of City Planning on the east side of Mass Ave, and at MIT Center for Real Estate Development on the west side of Mass Ave. On the east side of the road, I was surrounded by people who were passionate about community, social inequity, and environmental justice. On the west side of the road, I was surrounded by people who were passionate about bricks and, well, money. On the east side, my professors asked us, what is community? Who is the community? And in asking, made it clear that it was our job to seek the answer, and that the answer would be impossible to perfectly ascertain. On the west side, my professors asked us, what is good? And their meaning was really, are those returns good enough for the risk? Are the terms good enough to attract investors, lenders, buyers, renters? This also was a question without a clear, singular answer. And in between these worldviews, which I should pause here to say, were blurrier and more overlapping than I've presented, was the sticky mess of gentrification. But curiously at the time, it was sticky in part because it was still common for reasonable people to sit in a room and debate if the word gentrification actually connoted something bad. Yes, it was a simpler time. There was sufficient ambivalence that I actually titled my thesis, The Ambivalence of Gentrifiers. The concern of the piece was an attempt to unlock this ambivalence, not by preventing gentrifiers from moving into a neighborhood in the first place, but by finding ways to root them in the neighborhood in a way that enriched everyone. Yes, it was lofty and idealistic, but that's the usefulness of a think piece. It started to confront a key question of my career, which is how to narrow the distance from the east side of Mass Ave to the west, how to make what is good a little bit less about financial returns and a little bit more about community, how to make what is community a little bit less about only the recent past decades and a little bit more about what can our community be. One person's investment opportunity is another person's harbinger of displacement. Is one person's new neighbor another person's new neighbor? Can one company's opportunity be a community's opportunity? As a personal and professional gentrifier, and an ambivalent one at that, I have been heartened by the heightened level of conversation about gentrification. I'll tell you that when I was researching my thesis, there were no BuzzFeed top 10 ways to be a good gentrifier, or, as it was titled by the Village Voice, rest in peace, print edition, The Gentrifier's Guide to Not Being an A-hole. But the heightened conversation is not always in a vein that I find open to dialogue, and I'm one of those people who thinks words matter. Yesterday, I saw a poster that read, protest against racism, police brutality, and gentrification. To me, those things are not equivalent, but to others they very much are. And that gives me valuable information about the conversations we need to be able to have and the changes we need to make. It doesn't make it easier to start those conversations, but today at day one and across the nation, we are having a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and I think if we are patient with one another, we'll come out the better for it. So let me start over. Hi, I'm Allison, and I'm a gentrifier. At Hudson Companies, my take is, and has been, that we can't simply say we do affordable housing. Not only is that hiding behind a straw man, but it actually does a disservice to disparage our market rate housing, which delivers middle income and other units to the marketplace, which are snapped up by New York City residents. It ignores the obligations and the opportunities of the myriad for-profit market rate housing developers at work out there. I want them and us to be confronted with our own take on what is good, even though we may all have different answers. At Hudson, I like to say our informal motto is, we try to be good neighbors. What that means could be, and has been, for example, that we try to design to fit into the physical context. It could mean we try to curate our retail tenants to be accretive to the neighborhood offerings overall. It could mean that we finance promotions with local businesses at no cost to them that bring our renters into their stores. It could mean we hire construction laborers from the neighborhood. It could mean when a neighborhood group requests a meeting, we always say yes, no matter how mad they are at us. It could mean more, but does it mean what is good? What can our community be? I want to say thank you to Day One for coming up with today's conference, and especially our next panel, What a Business Owes Its Neighbor. I, for one, am going to be all ears. The panel will be so ably moderated by Tucker Reed, now of Totem and formerly of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership. My gratitude in advance to the panelists for sticking out their necks on a topic that has been known to divide households as well as neighbors. And thank you all for being a captive audience while I got to drone on about a topic most people wish they hadn't brought up by the time I'm done with them. And I'd like to leave with a quote from an article that Tucker sent to me, and I hope, Tucker, I'm not stealing your thunder here. The author was ruminating on the dichotomies of investment, disinvestment, gentrification, displacement, and she said, what if we allowed that historically disinvested places need new resources, and that diverse neighborhoods could be a good thing, and then we thought about how to get there? Thank you.